All right, week number 3, episode number 3. It is podcast here. Got video this time. We're going over Big Ten. So right now, this is no shit. Michigan State Spartans lead the Big Ten. I never thought I'd say that in the next 10 years, but here we are.
Well, if it wasn't them, it was going to be Maryland. So, I mean, which one of those is more believable?
Yeah, they lead the Big Ten. Okay, and then we have, let's see. So overall records, there are only a few teams that have a loss because most of the Big Ten plays crap FCS schools or really good FCS schools and lose. Uh, Maryland obviously lost to the champ right now, and then Northwestern lost to Duke. Minnesota, they got beat by North Carolina week 1. I don't remember.
Yep.
Michigan lost to
Not
Texas.
not only did they lose, they got spanked on the behind
Yeah, how you feel
by
about that?
Texas.
I knew it was. I
Oh,
mean, I called it. You called it.
there was so much joy during that game, and it's unfortunately, and you can attribute this to whatever you want to. Unfortunately, it had been a long time since we had seen Michigan lose like that, um, and where it was clear they never stood a chance. I mean, Texas is just on a different stratosphere right now, so that was very, very nice to see.
Do you have Texas like winning the SEC?
I mean, based on last week's performance and their game earlier, it doesn't really seem like they have any weaknesses right now. I think them and Georgia are for sure the 1 and 2. Again, I wouldn't go as far as predicting them to win it. I think we're gonna have to see how the season plays out. We still don't know how good Ole Miss is. I think we've seen enough from Bama to know that they haven't really changed very much from last year. They really
Look,
struggled with South Florida. So
so I hate Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been in this position many times where they're ranked really good and they do well, but they just once they get into SEC play, like week 7, it's like why were they ever ranked? I
yeah,
mean,
and it really isn't till October 12th or the 20th. Like they don't, and those games are against. Excuse me. Oh God,
oh,
that's awkward.
good. Hey,
Oh my gosh, this just
it's
came out of nowhere.
it's
That just
okay.
came out of
A
nowhere.
little heartburn
Um,
because you're
they
because you're
play
talking
L.
bad about Ole Miss.
No, they play LSU and Oklahoma. Those are their two toughest games before the Georgia game, and I don't think either of those teams are all that great. So there's a chance Ole Miss will be. I think they should be 9-0 when they go to play Georgia on November 9th. And like you were just
That'd
saying,
be
we
kind of
still
cool.
won't know. It will be really, really cool. And that game will be at Ole
I
Miss,
don't
which
think
is
they're gonna
even
make it that
crazier.
far.
What, undefeated?
Yeah, yeah. hmm
No,
Because the teams just
I'm not saying they
have,
will. I'm saying they should.
yeah, mentally on paper. Okay, let's get away from the SEC. But I mean,
Yeah,
Texas is great. Iowa, it's a shame. I did pick Iowa State to win, but as a Big Ten guy, it looks bad that Iowa State beat Iowa when Iowa was ranked. So
right.
it's what it is. And then you got the lonely Purdue that's 1-0 with UCLA. You know, um, but anyway, so sitting atop, I guess right now, power ranking wise, let's just go off the poll rankings. You've got Ohio State at number 3, Penn State number 8, and Oregon number 9. I guess both of those teams are probably rightfully ranked. I think that Texas jumping Ohio State was the right move because um, they played a legit FBS team last week. Um, and then USC at
Which,
number 11.
yeah.
I think that's a.
I mean, that's.
I'm surprised actually.
I mean, outside of Michigan's debacle, and they're down at 17. Which, by the way, you didn't think they were going to fall that far, and I kept telling you like they're going to
I
drop.
knew I knew they'd
They,
fall, but I didn't know they'd
but all
go.
the way to 17 though.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I were making the rankings, I'd have dropped them even further. To me, they would be barely hanging on the top 25 right now. And honestly, there's no bias in there. There are a lot of teams
Well,
that
but
are
they
ranked
played
behind them.
Texas. You just said Texas probably should.
I understand, but at the same time, like there are teams behind them in the rankings that I think would give Texas a better game, and also I think there are teams behind them that I think would beat Michigan. So like
Well, sure.
I'd pick Nebraska to beat them right now,
Nebraska. Well, I mean,
to beat Michigan.
it
I'd
will
pick
be.
if if Clemson has figured out their stuff, which again I understand you can't take much away from a game against Appalachian State, but they're actually not. I mean, they're relatively good every single year. The way that they put it on App State, if they've actually figured something out, I would pick them to beat Michigan. Arizona, I'd
Mm,
pick to beat Michigan with their offense. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
it
teams that I
is
would
yet
pick.
to be seen, I think, because the problem with saying this about Michigan now is that yeah, they might have gotten beat by a lot by Texas, but you know how Washington kind of rolled over teams last year and then just got pummeled um, in the championship game. I mean, there's no there's no mark to have been set yet to say whether Michigan can or can't beat these other teams. Anyway, let's talk about this upcoming schedule. So, time wise, we've got Wisconsin playing Alabama. I'm watching that one.
I
Like
mean, I'll be watching it.
that's my game. I mean, Alabama looks to be good, but you know, with a new head coach at Wisconsin, uh, it could be a good game. So I'm gonna watch it, and then I'll probably also flip back and forth from Fox to the Big Ten Network to watch Arkansas State hopefully play Michigan close. Now, again, as a Big Ten fan, I would like to see the Big Ten win, but I mean, wouldn't that be something if Arkansas State, at least if Arkansas State plays Michigan close, that'll tell us everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of Michigan fans have been clamoring for Orgy to start because he was the guy that was supposed to start all off season. It was going to be his team, and then Warren beat him for the job. And it's like they're clamoring for him, and I'm like, do you really want the guy who lost to Davis Warren to start? Because look how bad Davis Warren is. If he's that bad, then how bad is Orgy? So I don't know.
But
This
also,
Michigan
sometimes
season.
coaches don't really see things in practice that happen in a game. So
No, and that's true. But even when the couple times that they did put Orgy in that Texas
he
game,
just looked better.
it was clear. No, no, no. I'm gonna say the opposite. It was clear that they don't trust him to throw the ball at all. And when he would come in, they
Oh
would do
yeah.
these quarterback run plays. Texas knew exactly what was coming, and they just stopped it with ease. And so they're definitely it's bad times in Ann Arbor right now.
Um, and to many people's chagrin. Okay, Central Michigan at Illinois. Illinois played a great game against Kansas on Saturday.
They
I
did.
couldn't watch a lot of these games, but I watched almost all the highlights. And Illinois needed that. They needed something to keep their fan base coming back because I mean they do a pretty good job selling tickets, but if you lose, early in the year to Kansas, Central Michigan has the ability to beat Illinois. That's my opinion. I
I
don't think
agree.
they will,
I agree.
but they have the ability.
And
Well,
look at the line. It's only 18 too. Like if you're talking Illinois fans right now are talking like they might be a top 25 team, and it's like, well, slow your roll. And I
what?
think the
Illinois
books.
fans are saying that really?
Oh, after they beat Kansas, yeah. And
Well,
listen,
who's
I
Kansas?
listen.
Honestly,
I wish. Well, here's the thing. Kansas is they're solid. I won't call them good, but they're solid. I was surprised that Illinois won that game.
me too.
Um, Now they barely won it, despite the fact that Kansas threw three. Like Kansas played their worst game possible, and they still only lost
Right,
by six.
right.
So, if Kansas even played like their average game, they probably win by double digits. And so, yeah, the fact that this is only an 18-point spread is a little concerning if I was an Illinois fan. But I mean, they'll probably win the game.
I would love this. There's just I have such a dichotomy. I know it's a big word with some teams in the Big Ten because as much as I want them to win, some teams when they lose, I'm also smiling ear to ear, like, well, okay, Oregon and Oregon State. This is a rivalry game. Will this even be a game? I mean,
I'm I'm glad they're still playing it, even though Oregon left the conference. Oregon's been probably one of the most disappointing teams so far that hasn't lost yet. They've played really close to Idaho, which is just downright embarrassing. And then they almost lost to Boise State. I mean, they needed a miracle to beat Boise State. They needed a kick return touchdown in the fourth quarter and then a game winning field goal. There's a lot of things to be concerned about. If you're Oregon, I don't think Oregon State is going to expose all of them necessarily. I mean, it could be a close game just because it is a
It
rivalry. And if you
is at Oregon State too.
at Oregon State and they're probably, on a revenge tour, like, hey, you left us. Let's show you what we're still about. But even, they lost their coach too to Michigan State. So I think Oregon's going to win the game. Again, I would love to see it be close, but I would still pick Oregon to win the game.
Right. Notre Dame and Purdue. Uh, I I can't even. There's not enough time to talk about
Awesome.
Notre Dame because that's just funny.
Yeah.
If Northern Illinois can beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, then that means Notre Dame can lose to Purdue at home.
Oh, yeah.
The funny thing is this is on CBS. So,
Yep. They're probably really disappointed that Notre Dame lost that game because now all the luster is gone
well, they're
of this
still
one.
number 18. So Purdue, and honestly, this is probably Purdue's biggest game on TV all year. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
I do recall it's been, I don't know, maybe 6 7 years ago. I have to check with my producer. Yeah, 2018. Yeah. Uh, a team top ranked came into Purdue and Purdue spanked them on the 50-yard line. Who was Ohio State? Yeah, that's right. And so Purdue can win. Purdue can beat a big team, and I have no problems with Notre Dame uh, losing to Purdue based on the 14 point, wasn't it 14-point performance last week? So
Yeah, I mean they looked awful against Northern Illinois. I think everyone you by now you've heard all the commentary on it. That was embarrassing on so many levels.
which
Um,
was more embarrassing, Notre Dame losing to NIU or Ohio State losing to Purdue 6 years ago for the school?
okay, I would say Notre Dame only because like Purdue had that. Like Northern Illinois doesn't have that like one special player that can take over a game. And whenever you
Oh
lose
yeah,
to a team that has like Purdue had Ron Nelmore, right? And that
yeah.
dude was unbelievable. They had him. They had David Blow was a really good quarterback there, and so the and again like
He was.
Ohio State had lost to Iowa the year before by 30. So it's like no one was while it was shocking, it wasn't unbelievable. I would say this Notre Dame loss to Northern Illinois was unbelievable. Like nobody would have ever seen that coming. So that was yeah,
No.
I would say Notre Dame for sure. Which actually on that note though, because they lost last week, I actually am more confident that they're going to beat Purdue this week because I've always been a big believer in the bounce back
Mm.
theory, and so I think they're going to be extremely motivated to go into Purdue and win this game and start their roll towards 11-1 or 10-2 and the conversation toward the playoff. I don't think they should even sniff it at this point. If you lose to Northern Illinois, imagine what Georgia's going to do to you in the playoff. So yeah, I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win the game, but it's not because I think they're a good team.
Good point. Prairie View A&M at Michigan State. Can
That's
we
just
even name where the hell Prairie View A&M is from? I'm guessing Michigan,
oh,
but
it's a great question. Actually, I'll Google it right now.
so Michigan State better win that game. But Nevada at Minnesota, boy, I don't know. I mean, Minnesota needs to win, but Minnesota's not good. So the line is Minnesota by 18. I'm going to trust ESPN bets on this one because they have Minnesota by 17 and a half. That's a pretty good spread. I'm going to take Minnesota.
Yeah, I'll go with Minnesota too. By the way, Prairie View is in Texas,
Oh my
for
gosh.
what it's worth. Um, I'll go Minnesota. I have no analysis to back it up. It's Minnesota. If Darius Taylor is back, the running back, I'm even more confident. because I know he wasn't there for the North Carolina game. So give me Minnesota.
Washington State at Washington. So it's funny. This is the rivalry week for the Pac-12.
Right?
That's pretty cool. I like Washington State in this one. I do because it's a 4.5 spread with with 55 and a half points being scored. They've got Washington State at a plus 165. That's usually a pretty good sign it's going to be close. I want Washington to win though, but I think I'm going to go with State on this one.
I'm actually going to go with the Huskies. Again, this one isn't really based on anything other than pure feeling. I know they've got Will Rogers, the quarterback there. He's played seems like 20 years of college football at this point. He's very, very experienced. And Washington State's coming off a big win at home last week against Texas Tech, a game that I thought
That's
they
what
were
I'm
going to
saying.
lose.
Yeah.
They crushed them too. That game wasn't particularly close, and so I think a lot of people are shocked by the line that the Cougars are underdogs. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to follow as the week goes on. Um, but I do like the Huskies, so I'll take Washington.
Troy, formerly Troy State, at Iowa. I got Iowa spanking them. Um, they have Iowa by 22 on ESPN bets, but it's tough to
Which is
see.
what
It's tough to see Iowa score 22 points in any game.
that's that's exactly what I was going to say, and I think they will in this one. That and we'll talk about embarrassing losses. That the Iowa State game was really embarrassing, especially that second half. The fact
Well,
that the Cyclones were able to put up 20 points in one half against an Iowa defense as good as they are. They were down 13-0 in halftime. That was one of the best second halves I've ever seen a team play. Really, just again concerning all the circumstances. The Cyclones are for real. I think Iowa State
yeah,
is going to be a team we're talking about for the rest of the season, especially in that Big 12 race. But I'll take Iowa to win.
same.
It's going to be ugly. It's not going to look pretty, but they're going to get the win.
I think in my Big Ten predictions, or maybe week one, I think we talked about how Iowa State was going to be good. Yeah, our first video, we talked about how Iowa State was going to be in contention. Like we kind of went over who were the contenders for each conference, and I know we put Iowa State in there. Nebraska plays Northern Iowa. This is a no-brainer. Um, so I got Nebraska. ESPN Best doesn't even have a line on it, so it better be a blowout. UCLA and Indiana. Now this is a game that's on NBC. I
Yeah,
think it's pretty cool because it's the first time we're going to see UCLA the Coliseum as a Big Ten school on.
yeah.
It's going to be pretty neat. It's a conference game, so this one here might be the game of the week for the Big Ten. Um, we got I got Indiana winning this game, but who knows? I mean, this the spread's 46, or excuse me, the over under is 46 and a half, and then they've got Indiana by 3 with UCLA at a plus 135. So those are pretty good odds for UCLA. I mean, I like to look at both sides of the betting, but I'm going to say Indiana's going to win this one.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with you on this. UCLA has no
Maybe.
juice as a
I don't know.
program.
I don't know.
UCLA has no juice as a program. Nobody's going to be at this game. UCLA fans don't care. They don't. They don't care.
Well,
The
it's because
stadium's
they're
an
no good.
well, and the stadium's an hour away from campus. By the way, I'm not sure if you're aware because they play at the Rose Bowl, so that's in Pasadena, and so they got to go all the way out there. So I'm going to take Indiana to win this game. It's going to be another ugly one. I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to be entertaining, but
I
I do
think
think
they need to
Indiana will win the
change
game.
that. I really do. I mean, I know it's probably free for them to play there. I'm sure that whoever owns the Coliseum probably either pays or lets them play for free. Because that thing only gets used for concerts and other events maybe. I don't know, but Rose Bowl, I suppose. But whatever. I'm going to Indiana. Maryland and Virginia. I got Virginia with the win here. Um, just because Maryland's got a head coach problem. I mean, I know we don't have
Yeah, they
time
do.
to get into it, but they haven't had a decent head coach for a long time, and they've had decent 3 and 4 star recruits, especially Tua's brother, and they
Yep.
screwed that one up bad. I mean,
Yeah.
at least I don't know.
He never really got better as his career went on. Like he was always solid, but he never got to be a good or a great quarterback.
I think maybe there's some development issues there within the coaching staff, and I'm only saying this based on evidence. I don't know how good somebody is in the coaching world. You know, that's a whole different world where somehow I mean, I know I'm getting off track here, but somehow Brian Kelly's one of the greatest college coaches ever. I've never seen that. I've never looked at Brian Kelly's teams except for maybe the 1 year in Notre Dame and when he had an NFL quarterback as his quarterback. I don't so because Ed Orgeron took that team to great heights, and I mean, I don't know what else to
Yeah.
say, but I think that Maryland's got some coaching problems. We forgot one game that's on the lastly, and that's Eastern Illinois at Northwestern. It's on Big Ten Network. Look, man, I'm not saying Northwestern's gonna win this game because they should blow Eastern Illinois out like 43-3, and that's probably what's going to happen. Um, but the heartbreaking loss to Duke in double overtime, uh, that just takes the wind out of your sails. And they're benching Mike Wright. Uh, boy,
I'm
if
s- I'm honestly surprised that that didn't work out. I thought when he transferred there, I'm like, yes, that is exactly the kind of guy Northwestern needs, and I'm honestly kind of disappointed it didn't work out.
yeah, first 2 games, there's a whole year left. We've still got 10 games. Most teams have 10 games to play, so we'll see. And I think that overall, Northwestern's gonna probably fare middle of the pack this year. But we'll see where those middle of the pack teams end up. I mean, with 18 teams, you're gonna have 13 of those teams that are like 4-5 and 5-4. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, Ohio State does not play this week,
Nope.
so no games there, and gonna be a great, great, great week of college football. Let's go to the top 25 here and see who the games of the week outside of here are. Do you have anything on the top of your brain that you want to get off your chest?
In terms of the rankings, or just the best top 25 games this week.
In terms of the rankings, the top 25 in general.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC takes six of the top seven spots in the top 25 this week. I think that's an interesting thing to note out to point out. But like, I'll be honest, I'd probably have it the same way. I mean, they just have a bunch of really good teams. There's nothing too
They
much to get
do.
mad at.
They
I
do.
think I'll say this, and I don't get too ahead of myself because we only have 2 weeks of football to go off of. There's not so much you can draw right now. A team that I think is legitimate. Not only are they a playoff contender, but they might be a sleeper national championship contender. And you're gonna hate this, Tennessee.
I
Tennessee
do
is
hate that.
really the way that they ragdolled NC State. If they would have just beaten NC State, I wouldn't be saying this. Like if they won the game 34-28, okay,
Isn't
that's one thing.
isn't NC State like still a shit ACC team? I mean,
Well, and listen, yes, but what are you supposed to do when you play crappy teams from worse conferences? You're supposed to ragdoll them, and that's exactly what they did. That's what the
that's
elite
true.
teams do.
So you're
Like
saying
that's what I'm
Tennessee
saying.
sleeper college football playoff?
Correct. Well, yeah, they're good. I think they're going to make the playoff, and in terms of how far they can go, I'm not entirely sure. But them, Texas, and probably Miami, I think have been the three most impressive teams so
Yeah,
far, just in terms of and in Georgia too, because of the way they crushed Clemson. Those four teams have been the most impressive so far, and obviously they're the only four teams who have been able to play and win big games because obviously not every team's gotten to that point in their schedule yet. But those four teams have been really impressive, and I could definitely see all four of them making the playoff.
How about Northern Illinois being ranked 25? How about that? That's
Yeah,
nuts.
I'll just tell you this: they're not a top 25 team. I'll just tell you that right now.
Well, yeah, and the coaches poll has Memphis in there. But the fact that I mean, here's how it works in the whole like professional money college world. If NIU beats Notre Dame, then everyone that loves Notre Dame that puts up, has to put NIU in the top 25 because how can they keep Florida State from being in the top 25 after losing to two decent schools? Drop it, so why would you put NIU in the top 25? So NIU becomes the highest ranked non Power 4 team right now, other than
Well,
Notre Dame.
right. Which again, I don't even throw Notre Dame into that category because they're their own category. They're not Power Four. They're not Group of Five. They're in the Notre Dame category.
Yeah, just crazy, right? I think it's funny that a 1-1 Clemson, is still in the. I don't know, whatever. But there are only
And
so many
again,
teams.
yeah, and they looked really good last week against Appalachian State, and past Clemson teams have struggled with everybody, and so the fact that they whipped up on them like that, I think is encouraging for them. I think their next big game, don't quote me on this, they have a bye this week, and then they play NC State um, at home the week after. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're good, but it was just encouraging to see them go out and beat App State like that.
It is, and App State's a decent program. So, game of the week probably I would say for me is going to be Notre Dame at Purdue. Even though
Ooh,
there's better, closer games, I I think there are more implications here because if Notre Dame loses to Purdue, they're out of the top 25, and the loss to Northern Illinois looks even worse. And then Notre Dame then becomes out of the playoff picture, which means that they would have to go, to whatever conference champion there is. I mean, at this point, Northern Illinois and Memphis and teams like that are trying to get in the playoff by winning their conference because they will if they're the top five. So all right. Well, hey, I got nothing else. We'll watch the games this weekend and we'll talk next week. Do you have anything else?
no, it's going to be another nice week of college football again. There's not any huge marquee games this week, but there's a lot of good games if you just go and find them. So,
Oh
um,
yeah, oh yeah. There'll be some upsets. That's for sure.
yeah, like Arizona, Kansas State, for example, on Friday night. I'm actually looking forward to that one. I think that one's gonna be fireworks all over the place. We're talking maybe like a 52-45 game or something. So that'll be fun to watch. But other than that, I've got nothing else. Go Big Ten.
Yeah. We'll see you later.